Day 11 today, it's back and biceps. You had a rest yesterday and you should have started tracking your progress as I explained, but we're gonna be hitting back first, which are gonna warm up the biceps, and then we're gonna hit biceps after they're warmed up and they're ready to be fired. Again, we're lowering the rep range down to 12 repetitions, meaning that you're gonna choose a weight that's slightly heavier today. So as we did chest and triceps before, those muscle groups pair up well. Back and biceps work very well together as well. So we work the front, and now we're working the back, which are antagonistic muscle groups. So when we start to work one side, the other side actually recovers, so we can become more efficient with our workouts. As we're focusing on increasing the weight, remember we really need to focus on our recovery as well. So make sure that you take adequate rest between your sets of around a minute or so until you feel strong enough to give everything that you've got in that following set. We're going to be starting off with an exercise called the bent over rows. Now what I want you to try to remember, wherever your elbow is pointing as you're rowing, is generally the area of the back that you're going to be targeting. So for example, if you are going to pull down like this, your elbows are pointing down, so this is a portion of the back that it's going to be working. If your elbows are pointing up, this is the portion it's going to be working. But what we're going to do right now is called what's the bent over row. And we're going to bend over, so we're going to be hitting the middle portion of our back. You want to make sure that these supports are just a little bit lower than your hand height if you stood up erect. So this is a little bit lower, as you can see, so that's a perfect height for me. And I just lifted up there. So I'm going to be grabbing hold of this bar at about shoulder distance apart with an overhand grip. There's a couple of different ways that you can hold the bar, and that's an overhand, like so, or an underhand, like so. But today, we're going to be working with an overhand grip. So what you're going to do is grab hold of this bar with a straight back. You're going to take one step out, and then you are slowly going to bend over with a flat back. And then, once we're over at just about a 45-degree angle, I'd say a little bit further than that, we're going to row up to the bottom of the stomach. There, and back up, making sure the elbows are pointing back, not pointing up like that. So making sure that your head, neck, back is all aligned, and you push into the heels, and you're squeezing your shoulder blades. So it isn't just an arm movement like this. It's a back movement where you're squeezing and retracting your shoulder blades, and then you're stretching them back out, keeping your back flat at all times. Being a beginner, you may find that bar is quite heavy enough to begin with. If so, then you just stick to this for the first week. So that we've already done one warm-up, we're going to do a second warm-up now. Using about 50% of your maximum weight. Your maximum weight would be the weight that you'll use to reach failure at around 14 repetitions. Every now and again, you can look in a mirror to check your form, but be careful not to pull your head up like that. Keep it aligned with your back. Now, you may feel that your weakest link on a bar or on a back movement like this is your forearms or your grip strength. Because of the time under tension and your back is much stronger than your forearms or your grip strength, you may find this goes first. So unfortunately, this is going to be your weakest link. So you wouldn't be able to target your back as good as you'd hope if you're able to strengthen this weakest link. So here is what I've got called wrist straps. And they come in different forms, but this is the most common form. Okay, so now to put these on, what you need to do is make sure that that apex is on the inside of your wrist here. So you can kind of slide it through like that. And then you cinch it by pulling that loop over the thread. And then I'm going to wrap these straps around the bar. We're going to be using an overhand grip, so the thread goes underneath the bar. If we were to use an underhand grip, the thread would go over the top. But we're going underneath here because we're using an overhand grip. So I'm going to pull it tight there. Once I've pulled it tight there, I'm just going to wrap around the rest of the thread, like so. So those are my warm-up sets done now. I've done 3. You may feel that you only need to do 1 or 2. I've done 3, now I'm gonna go into my working set. Make sure that your mind is clear, you're mentally stimulated. As the weight gets a little bit heavier, make sure that you bend over a little bit slower, just get the feel of the weight, and then fire. And that's the first working set done. Now in between these sets, you want to try to stretch out your traps slightly. So what I like to do is hold on to a support like this with one hand, and I will pull against it so I feel a stretch throughout my traps and my lats, and I'll twist into it. So if my right arm is supporting onto the bar right in front of me, I will twist into it now to really stretch out the upper and middle portion of my back. And once I've held it there for about 15 seconds, I'll do the same the other side. Now, being a larger muscle group, the back, we want to rest for about 90 seconds. When we're going to do biceps later, the rest periods will only be about 60 seconds because it's a smaller muscle group and we'll be able to recover a little bit easier because it requires less oxygen. So I'm going to put on a little bit more weight for the final set to ensure that I do reach failure at 14 reps. Okay, that was a perfect weight to finish on. So now we've done more so on what's called the trapezius muscle, which is the middle portion of the back. Now we're going to work on our V taper. That taper going from the shoulders down to our waist. We want to enhance that taper to give us the illusion of a narrow waist. And we're going to do that next by doing an exercise called a lat pull down. Exercise number 2 is what's called the lat pull down. So what we're going to do is make sure that we have the pads here supported at the right height so your knees and the fronts of your thighs are able to fit under it snug. So it shouldn't be too high, so there's a gap there, and it shouldn't be too low. We can't fit your knees up under there properly and without your feet going underneath. So just there, about a thumb distance apart, thumb length, down the cambered side on each end is about perfect. So then we're going to grab hold of the bar. You may have to stand up to get it because some machines are a little bit higher than others. Then you're going to come down just below the chin and then back up. Now you're not going to just focus on pulling it down with your arms. You need to be focusing on pulling it down with your back. So I'm squeezing my shoulder blades down and back, and then I'm stretching them out, letting my shoulders come up slightly, and then bringing my shoulders down. And I'm gonna be breathing out on the way down, in on the way back out. Okay, and once we've finished with that set, we're gonna move on to a slightly heavier weight and warm up again before going into our working sets. Even on that warm-up set there, I could really feel my forearms starting to get stiff and get a pump. My grip strength is starting to slip. So again, just like on the bent over rows, I'm going to be using my wrist straps to cinch over the bar to take the stress away from my forearms so I can place more focus and emphasis on the back. Okay. First set completed. So in between these sets, we're going to make sure that we stretch the back out again. Similar stretch as what we did to when we was doing the bent over rows, but this time we're going to bend over just a little bit more so we can really target our lats more than our traps. So you're going to hold on to the bar with both your hands and you're going to lean over until your head falls in between the inside of your arms, and then with a flat back you're going to pull. So you should feel a stretch right upon the outsides of your upper back there. And after about 90 seconds, we're ready to go again. Second set is done. What you'll notice that as I was reaching failure, I wasn't cheating, I wasn't using any body momentum on my lower back, but the range of motion was getting a little bit more shallow and the speed of movement was coming in a little bit slower as well. And that's how failure should exactly be. It's those last couple of reps that are gonna give us all the gains and the changes within our body that we crave. Okay, third and final set, let's go. Whew. That's our third set done. Now we've targeted the traps with the bent over rows. We've targeted the width of the lats with the lat pull down. Now we're going to thicken those lats slightly using a reverse grip pull down. So you can use the same attachment if you like. I prefer a cambered bar personally, but I'll demonstrate it on this exercise nevertheless. So you're gonna grab the bar with an underhand grip, and then you're gonna pull down to your chest, sticking your chest out and retracting your shoulder blades. You're gonna go up until your arms are just slightly bent, but more so than anything, you're focusing on the stretch throughout the lats. So your shoulders will come up, and then you're going to pull those shoulder blades back down. Now I'm gonna take this attachment off because I prefer the cambered bar, and we'll use that for this exercise. So as you can see, this is the cambered bar, and you hold it on the outside camber, which puts your arms in a little bit of a more natural position, I find. It's a personal preference. So we're gonna perform the first warm-up set. Again, the setup needs to be exactly the same as when you perform the lat pull down, and then I'm gonna pull down and then back up, and you'll notice that I won't completely lock my arms. I wanna keep them slightly bent to take away any bicep flexion, but more so I can get a good stretch out my lats there without having to straighten my arms. Now, much like the lat pull down, you may feel a lot of stress placed upon the forearms. So for that reason, for my first set, I'm going to use the straps again. Now you may feel that you want to do another warm-up set, but I feel that we're adequately warm from doing the lat pull down. Okay, so this time where we're using an underhand grip, the strap goes overhand. So this time it goes over the bar, and we wrap it over and we pull it tight. Again, I find this relatively easy because I've been doing this for a long time, and I'm using a metal bar. Okay, that was a perfect weight for our first set of reach and failure. So the stretch for this is going to be exactly the same as what we did for the lat pull down. So holding on to a supported bar like this, and then stretching out the lats, and your head is falling in between your arms like that, and you're pulling against the bar as if you're trying to pull it out of the floor. So make sure it's supported. Okay, set number 2 completed. So again, perfect weight, so I'm gonna stick to that for our third and final set, but not after I've stretched out and rested for 90 seconds. So stretched for about 15 seconds, I'm gonna rest just a little bit longer and make sure that all my energy has replenished itself so I can give everything I've got into this third and final set. We've done 3 working sets there. Now we're gonna move on to another portion of the back, and that's gonna be the lower back. And for that, we're gonna perform an exercise which is called deadlifts. So we are back over at the squat rack here. You may find that the deadlift rack is completely different in your gym, but the same rules apply. With the bar, make sure that it's placed upon support, so it's just a little bit lower than your hand length, should you be standing up straight. So what we're gonna do is pull it out from the machine here. We're gonna go down as far as the supports, which the support should be just below your knee or halfway down your shins. We're gonna go down as far as there and then back up. Don't hit the rack, just above and then back up. Now you'll see some people going all the way down to the floor. Now I don't recommend that as a beginner because I don't want you to put too much strain through your glutes or your lower back. I want you to just get used to going down as far as the rack. Once you've gone through this beginner trainer, then we can start experimenting by going down a little bit further. So you don't just face towards a mirror like that. Your head should be down and back up. Legs are slightly bent as you go down and as you come back up. And you don't lock your knees out. So slightly bent, keeping the bar very close to your thighs and very close to your shins as you come down. Now I'm gonna increase the weight slightly from the next warm-up. If you find that the bar is heavy enough for you and it's hard for you to kind of wrap your head around this exercise to begin with, just stick to the bar weight. So this is warm-up set number 2 for me. Use for this exercise, for this weight, maybe about 50% of your maximum weight that you would use for reaching failure. So I'm not going to use the straps yet. I don't want to become too dependent on them. I'll use the straps and I'll show you how to use them again when we're going into their working set. And I'm breathing out on the way up and breathing in on the way down. Now you'll notice when I come up to the top, I'm coming straight back down and I'm not leaning back. I'm just coming up and straight back down. Up and straight back down. Now I'm ready for my working set now. Again, making sure that you're putting the collar onto the bar. Now I'm going to use the straps again now. So again, we're going to be using an overhand grip. So the straps are going to go underneath the bar. Arms are completely straight. We don't bend the arms. Going to go down and then back up. So that's perfect weight for me. Okay, now to stretch out the lower back, we're going to be lying on the floor and twisting our thigh over to the opposite thigh, and I'm going to demonstrate that for you here. So there's a couple of alternative ways of performing a stretch for your lower back. I'm going to show you one. What I'm going to do is lift one leg up into the air while the other one's slightly bent. This left leg of mine is going to go over the right side. Okay, so I'm going to grab hold of it with my right arm. I'm going to pull it over to the opposite side, making sure that I'm keeping my shoulder on the floor at all times. And I'm going to hold it there for about 15 seconds. You'll feel a stretch throughout your lower back and your glutes, possibly your hamstrings. Slowly do the opposite side, making sure that you keep contact with the floor with your opposite hand, and try, if you can, make contact with your opposite foot on the floor too. And then we're going to perform a second working set. Second set, perfect. Reaching failure at 14 repetitions again. I'm going to stretch in between a set. I'm going to show you an alternative way of stretching your lower back now. What you're going to do is lift your knees up. You're going to grasp them with the palms of your hands underneath your knees, cross your ankles, and then you're going to pull your head and chest towards your knees. You should feel a slight, just ever so slight pull in your lower back. And that is it. And now we're ready for our third and final working set. So we've got one more exercise now for back. And this is going to be the upper portion of our back, which are called our traps. For that, we're going to perform an exercise that's called shrugs. So, shrugs. So we've got some dumbbells here. I'm not going to use the straps because it's a warm-up set. However, when we go heavy, I will do. So I'm going to use 50% of my maximum weight. So what I'm going to do is bring my shoulders up towards my ears and then let them drop down. I'm going to pull them up and back down. I'm going to be careful not to tense my neck. I'm just going to keep it down and relaxed, looking straight forward. And it's only just about 3, 4, 5 inch movement where you're going to go up and then down. I'm relaxing my arms down by sides. I'm not bringing them to the front and I'm not bending them. Just keeping them straight, shrugging up and slowly down, and put those weights back. Now, some people consider this a shoulder exercise. It's not a shoulder exercise. It's working a portion of your back, which is right up here, the trapezius muscle. So we did work the trapezius muscle when we were doing the bent over rows earlier. However, that was slightly lower down the back and in between the shoulder blades. This portion of the upper fibers of the trapezius are above the shoulder blades. I'm going to go straight into my working set now. And to make sure that my grip strength doesn't go, I'm going to wrap my straps around the bar. Now I'm going to be using an overhand grip again. Now I did 20 repetitions there, so I guessed my working weight as being wrong. So I reached failure at 20 repetitions. This is obviously too light for me. So I'm going to increase my weight for my second working set. But before we do, we have to stretch out the areas we do with every muscle group. So to do that, I'm going to show you. So I'm going to stretch out my left trap first. So in order for me to do that, I'm going to pull my hand towards my right side behind my back here, towards my hip or my waist. And then I'm going to grab hold of it and I'm going to pull it even more. And then I'm going to tilt my head over to that same side so I can accentuate this stretch down my neck and down my trap. Then once I've held it there for 15 seconds, I'm going to do the same. Pull it over there, pull with the opposite hand, and twist my head this time towards my left side. And then it's time to go again. So I'm going to go upper weight now, keeping the upper body completely straight and completely still. The only thing that moves are my shoulders and arms up and down. Okay, I did 15 and a half reps there, nearly 16, so that's a good weight for me. I'm going to stick to that same weight for the third and final set. So I'm just going to stretch now before going into this final exercise for back. Okay, that's back completed. We've targeted every portion of the back. The back has different muscle fibers running in different directions, so that's why we have to hit it from so many different angles. But that's it, we've targeted every portion of the back now, so we're ready to go on to biceps. Biceps has had a bit of a warm-up from all the bicep flexion that we were doing from the pull-downs and from the rows. So now we're gonna hit the biceps because they're adequately warmed, but we're still gonna start with a warm-up set. So we've completed back, now we're moving on to biceps. We're going to be performing 2 exercises today. So remember, on triceps, tri meaning 3 exercises we performed. Bi meaning 2, we're going to perform 2 exercises for the biceps. So what we're going to do is grab hold of a weight, a couple of dumbbells here, face in a mirror to check your form, palms facing towards your thighs. And then as you come up with one side, you're going to supinate that hand, coming up as far as you can. So twisting around that arm as much as possible. So I don't want you coming up like that in what's called a hammer motion and your palms facing towards you. Palms should be facing up towards the ceiling, and then you just bring it in as you get to the bottom. And then you perform the same on the other arm. And always make sure that arm comes all the way back down to your starting position before you come up with the opposite side. So I never want to see you doing this motion where you're performing an upwards movement and a downwards at the same time. Always start once both arms are at the bottom, then with the opposite side. Breathing out on a way up, breathing in on a way back down. And we're gonna rest only for about 60 seconds now because this is a smaller muscle group. You don't need that much time to rest and recover and recuperate before performing the second warm-up set, I should say. And what we're gonna do, when we're counting these, we don't count with each arm, we count with both arms. So I don't want you to count 1, 2, 3. You need to be counting like this. 1, 1, 2, 2. So only when a rep has been completed with both arms do you count that rep. Okay, so those are 2 warm-up sets completed now. We're going to rest again about 60 seconds just to make sure that we are purely refocused and refueled before going into our first of our 3 working sets. Now we're going to be resting for about 60 seconds between each set, and you should be stretching between each set as well. So what I want you to do, there's a couple of ways that you can do this. I want you to find a bench and you're going to turn your hand all the way around so your wrist is facing forward. And then what you're going to do is place your hand on the bench, and then to accentuate the stretch down your forearm and your bicep, you're going to lean back slightly. And you're going to hold that there for about 15 seconds. And you should feel a slight stretch there, and then the opposite side. And shake it out. And now I'm going to go straight into my second working set. Another stretch out. Now you may find, because of the time under tension, and this exercise does take twice the amount of time as you would if you were using a bar, because you're using one arm, then the other arm, place a lot of time under tension on the grip strength and your forearms. So you may find that you get a particular pump or tightness around the forearms. But that's okay, it will get stronger over time the more that you do this. Okay, third and final set. I reached failure. I couldn't perform another rep, so that was good. That's gonna break down the muscle tissue of the bicep, which we just worked there. So you may feel a lot of tightness there, a lot of fullness, and a lot of strain there. Obviously not strain that it feels like it's gonna get injured, but a lot of strain placed upon the muscle because it's not used to this environment. Right, now we've got one more exercise for biceps, and we're gonna perform what's called the preacher curl. This is the preacher bench. Now, when we're using a preacher bench, you need to adjust the height of this. There'll be a pin sometimes on the side where your armpit is snugly put over the pad there, and the back of your arm should be flat on each side, okay? So we're gonna use a cambered bar. As I've got one here, I've got a fixed cambered bar, but you may find that you've only got a cambered bar and you have to put plates on either side yourself and cinch them on with a couple of collars so they don't slide off. So we're gonna choose a lightweight. I'm gonna grab the camber right on the inside there, so slightly narrower than shoulder width, the grip. And I'm gonna lean over the front. Back to my arms are flat against the pad. I'm gonna look straight ahead in the mirror just to check that I've got the form. I'm gonna come down slowly till my arms are almost straight and then back up. Now, I'm not gonna come all the way into my chin because the tension releases as I get about 3/4 of the way up. So as soon as the tension starts to release off the bicep, that's when I know it's time to go back down. So it's gonna be up and then down, up and then down, and making sure that your upper body stays completely still. Don't allow your body to cheat by swinging back and forward. Keep your shoulders locked in one position and your arms locked in one position. Now, I feel that one warm-up is enough for me. So I feel I can go straight into my first working set. If you feel that you aren't warmed up yet, then by all means, perform another warm-up set. I'm gonna breathe out on the way up, breathe in on the way back down. Right, that really hit me on the sweet spot. My biceps are burning, and you're gonna feel that as well. There's gonna be times where you're gonna think, God, okay, I'm gonna put the weight down, and you've only reached 9 or 10, but if you really focused and dug down deep. So we're gonna stretch again, in between sets, exact same stretch as we did when we were performing the alternate dumbbell curl. Second working set. Second working set completed. Again, reached failure at 14 repetitions. That was perfect. So we got one more set. The last set, we need to put everything that we possibly can into this, as we do with every other set. Okay, final set. Let's do this. Okay, that is it. We're done for today. So if you like, you can cool down on a bike or a treadmill or an elliptical, but not until you've had your recaged. So remember, your recaged is your post-workout protein that's a fast isolate, and which turns into a hydrolyzate when you actually put the water to it. So you want a fast release protein straight into your system, and then we're gonna do a little bit of cardio just to ensure that you shuttle that around the body to the localized areas so you can recover in order to come back for tomorrow's session, which is going to be shoulders. So thank you for joining me today. I will see you here back in the gym for shoulders tomorrow.